because we're not necessarily going to talk about specific clients, I thought it would be great just to do this with each other. And now if I can find which tab had the, do you guys all have the link there, or should I just pull it up on the screen
What link for what? Which one,
for
Kim?
the clinician manual?
Yeah, you sent it around, didn't you? Yeah,
So I can put it up, or you can pull it up where you are.
I've
And
got
I
it.
and I thought that
Yeah.
maybe we could just walk each other through it and notice what we experience in our own bodies. If you do somatic work, then this will be familiar. But I think it's really good for therapists to kind of
Yeah.
do everything before they offer it to anyone else. Are you guys in
I pr
agreement with that?
I printed it off, to be honest, because
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to write all over it.
Isn't
Oh,
it
perfect.
400 pages?
Oh, I
Yes, it
know.
is, but you don't need to print off the whole thing. You can,
Well,
and,
I
and,
did,
and
and maybe
honestly, there's a structure at the beginning. So session one, kind of like good old CBT that I remember actually having Aaron Beck talking about setting agenda. So I do think it's a good idea to kind of set the agenda. And what I didn't have in here was like checking to make sure, that there isn't anything the client wants to make sure is on the agenda too. But it is a structured protocol, and there are specific skills that we want to give people a chance to experience, not just like talk at them about it. So agenda setting can be super helpful with that, because most people, you maybe notice with your clients, they're just going to jump into the same old story that they have told about this trauma experience to everyone else or to themselves. And
right.
there is space in this protocol for that. It's just that we're trying to do something different from that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
What
Yeah.
when people give these Thrive 90-minute Thrive
Yeah.
sessions, is there a different rate for it, or is it like your regular rate at 1.5
There
hours?
is a different price for Thrive sessions. What we did is we like figured out, okay, how would like I think I based it on a registered clinician. So if you're doing this and you're supervised practice, then you might be getting a slightly higher rate. But I thought that was fair, given that if you're doing it, it means you're probably giving up some of your autonomy as a therapist, and you're coming to things like this and doing extra consults and training. So it is something that's a bit different. So it works out to, if everyone does everything, all the hours the way it's designed, that it would cost the client $7,000.
And
So
if they're on with VAC, that's not a problem. And if they're
But
not
if
with
they
VAC,
and if
they
they're with VAC, that's not a problem. If they're not with VAC, well, every therapist has the opportunity to like develop their own payment agreement for
right.
it. But I actually wanted to set that expectation because these are all the skills and phase the way ISTSS recommends that trauma treatment be done. And it's a lot cheaper. I used to have to make this argument at the Royal. This is a lot cheaper than an inpatient hospitalization.
It is.
Like this is
Well,
like less than a day of an inpatient hospitalization, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually built for funders to get used to paying us what we're worth and for the research and the time developing the protocol that's behind it and all the assessment parts to it because it's incredible value. If we were thinking just like, oh, you can pick anyone who's listed on Psych Today, well, that's fine. It's not competitive that way. It's competitive in the sense
right.
that you can either pay for workers' comp for 20 years, or you can pay for inpatient treatment, which I just had a meeting with Homewood. I think it's like $35,000 now for like a inpatient treatment, which will not have as good therapy as this, you know. So that's kind of what I'm shooting for. But every clinician always has the right to make a payment agreement. If you want to deliver this or deliver a modified version, like I'm not trying to do a randomized controlled trial yet of this. So I'm not going to get upset if like you use the overall structure. Who was it I was talking to yesterday? Oh, Thomasina. And she said, like, I think that the person can't handle 90-minute sessions. I'm like, well, then don't do it. Then do one session a week for 1 hour and do it for 40 weeks instead, or like decrease the intensity of it. But this
Yeah.
is something that I am it's because of what I've seen for over 30 years of like there being this huge gap in the system. So either you're doing inpatient and going and probably getting kind of shitty therapy, but at least it's intensive,
Yep.
right? Or you
Yeah.
have once a week therapy without any specific protocol,
Well,
and this fits
but
the gap in between those.
I mean, there are the problem is that the protocols are too one size fits all. CPT,
Yeah.
having done enough CPT to see
Yeah.
that it's just not going to be effective for complex trauma. Yeah,
These are the people that we built this
yeah,
for,
yeah.
who are like I love Kathy Kane. She developed the regulation and resilience protocol. And she just does so much great work with complex trauma, like somatically oriented work. And yeah, she said, I've never seen complex trauma be healed from inside complex trauma, you know? So this protocol kind of takes her philosophy on things is you have to build a whole different map of how to relate to the experience if you're going
Mhm.
to create a new set of behavioral options for someone to be able to act out of. And that is kind of her argument for people with complex trauma who are trying to do very intensive exposure-based work, that they're already coming in with a dysregulated, either frozen or hyperactivated nervous system. And then you're trying to teach them how to do something new out of their traumatized nervous system. So she's like, first, you have to get a little bit of movement in the nervous system and do the resourcing. And this is like standard practice for the general trauma field, is to just build in some resourcing. Hey, I saw Kevin just came in.
Yes.
Kevin, we were just gonna do the practices together for session one. Are you guys down with that?
Sure.
Um, So maybe we'll just see how far we get. We'll do a practice and then maybe reflect on what we notice or how we think this might work or not work, or maybe if we've done it and seen variable responses to it, we can process that. And I am just pulling up. So this is what it looks like in the manual, if you want to follow along. Does someone want to
Which page is, oh, there it is. I got it.
20.
page 20? And I'm going to scan forward from the intro part and get to the practice part, if that's okay with you guys. There we go. So there's three little practices that are for grounding and orienting to start out. Kevin, you've done this with like, are you on like 4 or 5 people that you've done the protocol with?
I've only done it with two.
Oh, just two.
Yeah. I've pitched
Uh,
it to a bunch of people though.
do you guys
How
want,
far have you gotten?
I'm on the midway point at the next session with the one I saw today, and the other one dropped out because of a bunch of reasons that might not be worth going into right now. But
Mhm.
yeah, he was forced back to work, and the only time I see him now is while he's driving a truck, so he can't really do a lot of the
Not very safe to do
yeah.
drive while you're driving heavy equipment. Yes, we
So
should
he
put
Close your
that
eyes
as
and
a,
visualize.
yeah.
can't stop working when I'm talking to him. So we had to basically
Oh,
scale back to just normal therapy. And he's also got some financial constraints that we're trying to work through. So
yeah.
yeah.
Was that the
Anna, just
guy who had,
purely logistics on that. Is he in the truck while he's doing therapy with you?
Yeah.
Check your insurance.
Okay.
let's start out and just, this is a basic somatic experiencing practice. And you've already kind of done the intro, you've set the agenda that we talked about. And we're just beginning by kind of installing some down regulation in the nervous system. So when we start, how about I'll guide us through the first one and then we'll stop and we'll process a bit. And then if someone else wants to guide through the second one, you can see the scripts right here. We could take turns if you want. So everyone in a comfortable, safe place.
See.
And I will sometimes even do this a little bit. I don't know how much attention you guys pay to where people sit in the room or what objects are around them in the room or, whether they tune into themselves. But this is what I do with everyone a little bit, even if I'm doing pure IFS or even if they're coming in for a ERP for OCD or something, because I've really learned how little people tune in to their sense of safety in a room and even that they can have some agency around that. So there was one person I see who is a psychologist with just incredible complex trauma. And we'll spend some time deciding where to sit. And her first response when I asked her, well, where would you like to sit in the room so you could feel safe? Was like, I don't matter. I don't know. Stop being weird. This is weird. I'll be like, well, isn't it interesting that brings up a lot that for you to even ask yourself, where would I feel safe in this room feels really weird and threatening, you know? So it can be quite diagnostic, I find, just whether people can tune into themselves and notice where they want to be. And I did do this once with a physician with a generalized anxiety disorder who it was really impairing her work. And she actually, when we negotiated where to sit in the room, she was like, could we just not look at each other? So it's the first time I've ever done therapy like back to back.
Oh, interesting.
So you might get like, oh, this is really weird and discomfort, or people might love it, or they might like ask you to do something. And that was so important for that person that she could actually get what she needed. So it's a little bit about that too. So imagine you're the client here and you've settled, and we're just going to begin by orienting to the room. So first, just as you're settled into where you are without moving your head much, just try letting your eyes move around the room. So just do it here with me. I'm looking at the plants and at the zebras. Maybe you're looking out the window. Leaving the head still, just letting the eyes move. And notice the colors and shapes. Maybe the light. And now as you look around, see just internally. If they were in person with me, I'd have them say it out loud if that was okay. But to keep the cacophony down, we can name it internally here. See if you can name 5 things that you can see. And now notice 4 things you can physically feel. Might be the points of contact with the chair or the floor. Feeling of your sweater on your skin. Then maybe notice 3 things you can hear. Just noticing what your experience is. So let's just step back from that a moment and maybe we can popcorn style name in one word what this feels like to do this.
I like it. I have some clients who will do this with me? Pause and look around the room and pick a chair and be much more deliberate. And I have a couple of clients who enter the room and start talking like full volume, full like, and they can't slow down. And sometimes I think, oh, I'd love to slow it down. So I do a lot to kind of slow things down sometimes. Yes,
So this feels slower. It's like you're
I
not
like it.
stopping, but just like
Yeah,
breaking.
no, I like it. I like the slowness of it, the pace of it.
I always find it peaceful. Just it does exactly what it's supposed to do, I think, where just draws all my attention to the present moment and kind of shuts off any other thoughts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tones down the busyness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I notice when I do this with clients is my breath slows down, and I'm not sure if I'm mirroring their breathing or they're mirroring mine, but our breath becomes in sync.
Yeah. Co-regulation can happen too.
Huh.
Yeah. That's good noticing. Yeah, for sure. Our bodies slow down and it introduces the possibility that if there's any co-regulation at all, maybe it might help theirs. Yeah. Could you feel that, Lori? I know you'd said like this somatic stuff, I don't know about it.
Well, for me, I think I think I would do better if I was actually in a therapy room because my problem is if I do something like this, if I look at five things I can see in my current environment, I get unsettled because it reminds me of all the things I have to do. Either, if I was in my kitchen,
Yeah.
I'd see the kitchen, I'd see the dishes. If I was in my home office, I'd see the papers that need to be filed. And in my bedroom, I see the clothes that need to be hung up.
Yeah.
So it's not calming for me, but that's based on locale. If I'd gone out in my backyard and sat there, I'm sure it would have been great.
That's a great note because if you're doing this online with someone, like I'll sometimes start a session, are you somewhere safe and secure for you right now? And a lot of times people are not, right?
Yeah.
So then maybe spending a little time uh, orienting to the room or bringing in something that's a little more grounding or that they can focus on that's a little bit safer and more supportive. That's a great point. Yeah. Yeah. Does someone else want to guide us? That was the somatic anchoring. Oh, one thing I wanted to say about that is what I'll sometimes when people are like, why are we doing this? And I'm like, well, what happens with trauma is we have this readiness system and it is there. It's like the little squirrel that's sitting there eating the nut, and then something moves in the bushes and it stops and it like looks over, and that's not trauma. That's just like the system in kind of a neutral way is orienting to salience in the environment. And we stop and we look around. So we're like noticing a positive use of the salient system. Now, if there's, a predator lunging out of the bushes and like, like all the somatic activation happens, adrenaline's going, you're getting the legs set, ready to run, you're going to fight, flight, freeze. But this is like a really important moment of just being calm, but also ready, and we're kind of practicing that. That's why we do the eyes and why we'll do some of these other practices, is that we can be ready without it going into a full fight, flight, freeze kind of response. Someone else want to lead somatic anchoring, or do you want me to go ahead?
Keep going.
Okay. Okay, so we've oriented to the room. Now, if you want to like just look around or shake or whatever, like reset, etch a sketch. Um, most of my clients wouldn't know what that means, but shake the etch a sketch. Let's now just bring our attention to the feet on the floor. So unhooking from thinking for a moment and bring all your attention down and let it flow down and kind of pool in your feet. And see if you can notice like the feeling of your foot if you want to rock your foot back and forth like if you had a foot on the sand, and you were making a footprint in the firm sand at the ocean. So just notice the points of contact in the feet. If you want, you can put both feet on the floor and notice the floor pressing back. So this is called grounding, literally feeling the ground beneath you. And what I notice is when people's nervous system is really activated, they'll curl their toes or their feet will bounce, or there's a lot of activation on the lower half of the body. And this is just kind of the body getting ready to run. It's a little bit more than the little squirrel stopping and orienting to the sound in the trees. It's now it's like more like preparation to run. So we're just also settling in, and this feeling of connection to the ground gives messages to the nervous system that it's safe. You're on the ground. So let's just hang out for 15 minutes here, or not 15 minutes, 15 seconds. Just feeling the solidity of the ground beneath the feet. And I might just stay here with the grounding in the feet. I might tell people you can always come back to this and just spend some time feeling your feet on the ground, pressing your feet into the ground to bring back that sense of solidity and safety. But we're also going to add another little bit of somatic anchoring. And if this is too much for you, you can just let it go and go back to feeling the feet on the ground. But see what it might be like to just to place one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart. Or you can pick one. And my teacher likes to say, imagine your hands are saying, I come in peace. We're not actually trying to change anything or do anything in a particular way. We're just letting the warmth of the hand be a support to the digestive system, to the heart. And we're just going to spend a minute here. You don't have to change your breath, just notice the breath breathing you. And it might not happen today, but this is like a little invitation to your nervous system just to work a little bit less hard. We're offering some support. So that's 1 minute in the somatic anchoring practice. Did that feel like a minute or longer or less?
Felt
Goes
longer.
quickly. Sorry, what did you say, Kevin?
I said it felt longer than a minute.
Ah, I thought it went quickly. How funny.
When you're doing the feet on the floor, I do this all the time with people, and I've seen it, it's been so kind of impactful in a surprising way to me, like for some of my clients. And so I started adding things to it, like feeling your weight in the chair, but then
Yeah, great.
because I feel my weight in the chair more than on my feet.
Right.
And and then like bringing from there, directing the attention to the feet on the floor and feeling how the chair is supported by the floor also. And like it's all
Yeah,
grounded and it's all being supported by the earth
yeah,
and all that kind of stuff.
great. Yeah, no, like innovate for sure. It's just think of it like the infant who got dropped, right? That's a lot basically what a lot of our clients feel like is like the really vulnerable parts of them got dropped, and there's like that arching and the resistance, and like the system is kind of chronically in this bracing. I have one client who calls it his enduring part, like it's he's chronically braced, you know.
Hmm.
With this kind of visualization, I'll sometimes ask them to imagine you've got roots growing out from your feet now.
Yeah.
And that's, if you as the tension is building up in your body, if it feels like that's okay, you can send it out through the roots. It's going to be able to transform into useful energy if it was feeling like it was stuck.
Love that.
Love it. All these like creative ways to kind of get people to just rest a little bit into the experience of being supported, right? And that's why I said with the belly on the hand or heart, like that might be way, way, way too much for some people. Like just feeling the weight on the chair might be, that's it for today. You know, has anyone noticed that?
Not yet.
Yeah.
I've got one client who gets very agitated about being still. It's we have to do really small titrations for her to be able to get there because the resistance in her, she's got trauma that she hasn't processed, childhood trauma that she hasn't processed, and being still is very threatening space for her to be. So we have to do it in really small increments.
Yeah, so that's exactly why we just suggest like 15 seconds, 30 seconds to start out with, because you're also kind of assessing what the window of tolerance is like here, because there are some people who like just touching my belly, a touch that is non-harming is like, oh, whoa, or touching that area of the body is like way, way, way too much. Or the nervous system coming out of hypervigilance and bracing is like way too much because like everything unprocessed and all the emotion is like right there under the surface, and they start, it's not that the practice hurts them, but it softens their habitual vigilance enough that they feel really overwhelmed. So that's why we keep it really short and still like just introduce the possibility there could be this support here, and then we'll let it go and we can talk about it. You know. Yeah, I used to not teach the feet on the ground, and then I realized, oh, just because I don't benefit from it doesn't mean a lot of people say, oh yeah, that is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I find myself I come back to this sometimes to remind people how they're sitting, especially if they get really distressed. I mean, the breathing, I mean, you haven't got there yet, but
Yeah.
the breathing, yes, but just sometimes reminding people to sit and about how they feel because they start, wrapping their hands, their arms around themselves and retreating and shrinking and, getting really awkward looking.
Yeah.
And sometimes I remind them about sitting with their, and taking a minute to do that again.
The kind of the defensive pretzel legs is always an interesting signal. Is
Yeah.
what would happen if we just unlaced them a little bit and allowed your feet to touch the ground? What would that feel like?
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Well, let's try just a little bit of breath regulation then now. So this is just intentionally shifting the habitual pattern of breathing to send a signal to the autonomic nervous system that things are safe and okay. So you might notice, or maybe you'll notice after this, like the pattern of people's breathing will really change depending on what you're working on in
yeah.
therapy. I see your heads nodding. Like, where have you seen that?
Well, people slow down sometimes, especially the people, like I say, that come in and they're just like pressured speech and they just have to get everything out. And sometimes building in, I try not, to be honest, to cut people off or interrupt them too much. I do sometimes, but I try not to do that abruptly. But bringing people back sometimes to this and the breathing, people then talk slower,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
had a
especially if they've come in with they've got their week of items that they want to bring to therapy.
Right. They're,
So
they
they
want to
come
keep
in
their
with their
calendar,
checklist. I want to talk about all these things
their
that
calendar of events.
yeah,
Yes, I
Yeah.
have a couple like that. Very much. We're a calendar therapy.
yeah.
Yeah, the managers are pretty strong. So
Yeah.
we work together with them. We're like, well, get to the list, and how about we just
Start
help
here.
the system work a little less hard? I really love, this is also from Kathy Kane. Maybe because I come from a family who were always very thrifty, and they're like, this is about low cost of living in the nervous system.
Uh,
Ooh, I have parts that are like, ooh, I like low cost of living. So it's really about helping the nervous system know when to activate when it needs to be activated, but then how to downregulate and refresh when you don't need to be activated and vigilant. And that has not been safe for many of us. We had to stay constantly vigilant, or the readiness system, as Kathy King calls it, is always on, like 9 out of 10 vigilance. So we're not trying to turn it off. Like I said with the little squirrel analogy, like it's just kind of a neutral. We want to be able to orient, yes, but we don't want to always be into the full fight, flight, freeze. So doing
Dr.
some
Sutherland,
bottom up signaling can really help. It's not thought, it's just signaling from the bottom up. You're going to be all right. It's okay. Was someone saying something?
yeah,
Sorry.
I've got a couple of clients that actually that spend a fair bit of their time in automatic process, dissociative.
Yeah.
And the breathing actually makes them feel uncomfortable because
Right. Yeah.
they don't feel their in their body. It's almost like they're used to being tension in their body, and relaxing it is so alien
yeah.
that it's it feels initially threatening. So this is another one where got to
Yeah.
titrate first, explain why we're doing this, really slow down the
Exactly
experience of
right.
it.
And then you can just be noting that as the clinician. Okay, there's some like overcoupling with relaxation, and I'm going to be attacked.
Yeah,
Those are two different things. Relaxation, I'm going to be attacked, are
yeah,
entirely different experiences. But you can just note overcoupling. We maybe won't address it a whole lot. We'll just titrate and like work with what their zone of tolerance is. But let's go ahead and try the breath pattern. And the intention is just to signal safety to the nervous system. So we're not trying to take deep breaths, and we're not trying to hold the breath really hard. It's just very gentle and natural. So I'll do it first, and then let's do it together. So I'll breathe in through my nose for a count of 4, hold for 2, and then breathe out through a straw for a count of 6. So what really matters most in this is the exhale, because it signals the kind of parasympathetic nervous system that everything's okay. And often you'll notice when we're agitated or vigilant, we're breathing kind of in the upper lobe of the lungs, taking little sips, like kind of not getting a full exhale. And the hold is actually quite helpful, but we're not doing it for a long time, like in yogic breathing or something, but it allows for better oxygen uptake. And this is why, like if someone's having a panic attack, they say breathe into a bag, or like they'll even teach some breath holds because the oxygen uptake is not ideal. And that's part of what signals the system that there's a problem, right? Of course, there's whole other things than panic attacks, but we're just trying to help the whole nervous system come down out of overwhelm or panic. So let's try it again and do it 3 times together. So take a deep breath, and then let's breathe in through the nose for 4 and hold, and out through a straw for 6. One more. Hold through a straw for 6. Last one. Hold through a straw for 6. And then we'll let it go. So just checking in, how does your body feel right now compared to when we started?
I feel good, but my cat has responded to your voice and she's purring very loudly. So my cat is having a somatic experience.
The cat's into the thrive.
She is totally here with me. Sorry.
Oh, that's so
Has
fun.
anybody had the experience for clients that are online where the cats become involved in the session? If
Oh,
you're
yeah.
doing parts work, the cats show up to provide comfort. If you're doing grounding, the cats show up and want to be soothed. I've got 3 clients that have cats that only show up when we're doing those particular exercises, but they're very present and wanting to be touched.
Hmm.
So interesting, little co-therapists.
I've noticed it more with dogs actually. When people, their dogs, they start talking and their dogs want to be involved because they're talking, and they start talking too,
The,
which,
the
yeah,
pack's getting together.
yeah. I don't know, people and their pets, it's an interesting world. It's probably something to that.
Coming back to the breath, just for you, can any of you notice a little shift in the nervous system? How does the body feel?
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very
Oh,
calming.
oh, I find it very calming.
I do this almost instinctively. This is how I access self energy when so even if I'm not actively leading my clients through this, I'll do it right before a session.
Hmm.
Can't wait for you to get to walk Kelly's awake awareness section in this, Karen, because that was a game changer for me as far as accessing self and
Oh,
all that,
cool.
just like kind of falling right into it. But that's for another day.
Yeah, but notice this is like a key element, like even with the animals showing up or the cat purring, animals do really recognize self energy. It's remarkable. You can't bullshit them really.
Right.
Like they'll run towards it, you know. And I believe that everyone has self energy. Maybe like this might be too overwhelming for some people. So it just gives you a lot of information. It's like, okay, they have to work really, really hard. High cost of living for them. They need to be vigilant. They need to brace. They need to keep moving, you know. So it's kind of both a somatic assessment and a skills introduction to
This
begin
this
resourcing them.
this part of session one with my one of my Thrive clients, like she was when we got through it and I asked her how everything went, she said she was really surprised at how much the vagal breathing helped her because she was very, very nervous going into it because she had experiences with being overwhelmed by deep breath work at yoga and stuff.
Mhm.
And so she was super worried. But the real emphasis was on not really deep breathing, but just focusing a little extra on the exhale. And that's it. And nothing deep or intense about it. And she found it very relaxing and actually started applying that in her daily kind of practice.
Hmm.
It was kind of the first time she had gotten, anything positive out of breath work. So I don't know if it's the way.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of times there isn't a lot of trauma sensitivity in breath
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
Um, what was the name of the guy? It was
Wim
this
Hof.
psychiatrist at the Royal. It's his brother who's the big breathwork and psychedelic guy. Anyway, I went to one of the breathwork sessions the way his protocol had designed it. And I'm like, oh my God, like people were just decompensating left, right, and center. It was all I could do to like endure. I think it was 3 hours, and I was doing it as part of, I did advanced psychedelic assisted therapy training actually, because I'd had so many clients ask about it, but I don't do anything unless I go get the training first, and put myself through it first. And yeah, it was quite intrusive and a lot of forceful breaths and a lot of big, strong breath holds and not a lot of attention to building resourcing and safety. So maybe that's a little bit, I feel like it's a leftover from the 70s experiential encounter groups or something. Just really override all of the defenses. And this is, I think, a lot more, I like to think a lot more respectful than that. Like people might get there and go into like the deep experiences, but later on, we're not trying to throw people in the deep end of the pool. And I really find these three little practices, like it really is an assessment of their window of tolerance. If
Mhm.
they're like, oh man, I love it, bliss, I'm ready for it. Okay, maybe their nervous system has more capacity that they're not using. Or there's some people who are like, that was so weird. No way, I can't feel anything. And like, I feel more agitated. Okay. So we're working with probably a narrow window of tolerance and we're not trying to override it. We're not trying to argue them out of it. We're just like, all right. So it's pretty expensive to be you right
Is
now.
this something you anticipate that every session starts with this? This is what I've been thinking that you do. You just don't have the explanation necessarily.
Right. That I think is a really good practice, is just to kind of make it a habit to do a little bit of grounding and
Okay.
presencing before you go in. You don't have to go through a full guided practice every time, but yeah,
As
we're trying to live from a different place in the nervous system is what we're trying to inculcate. Yeah.
Okay.
if I could say, like, just because it was really central to the session 9, which I was in today, it's you don't necessarily do this, Allison, every day,
Yeah.
and at least as far as the Thrive protocol, if you're walking through it.
I haven't read up to that point, so thank you.
It
Yes.
shifts to, like, instead of grounding, it's like basically it's all going somewhere. And you learn to resource first and you learn to like feel comfortable and present in the room. And then from there, you learn to access like more of your center, like, you know, spatial awareness in kind of the center of your body. And then from there, you kind of move towards somewhere else where it's all like preparing you so that you feel safe and your protectors and stuff aren't going to overreact when you just drop into self, because if you do that, then you have a real visceral kind of protective response from your whole system. So you build your way there and you
Yeah.
start. I see this as like baby steps at the beginning of just like getting in touch with your physical presence and being aware of your breath and learning how to regulate. Just because I've had clients dissociate in front of me and had to, like, use grounding to kind of get them back
Yeah.
in the room with me.
Absolutely. And I do notice dissociation is more ubiquitous than one might think. I
Yeah.
have a client with a lot of complex trauma that I see, and he went through 4 years of therapy with the best CBT folks in town. And I do believe they did really great ERP work that helped a lot with his OCD. But I think the somatic overactivation and freeze response and the dissociation was completely off the radar for them. You know,
With CBT therapist, I'm shocked.
you're shocked. Well, I was like, wow.
Just shocked, shocked.
This client told me the other day, he said, well, like this top guy said, well, I've given you all I have, so moving on, like, and then
Oh,
they ended therapy. And that was true. He probably had given him all he had. But I was like, look at you. You come in and you're flipping between different dissociative states all the time. Like it's really obvious. And if you did even a little bit of these breath practices in the first session, you would have seen, okay, we're dealing with a lot of hypervigilance and dissociation here. Very, very smart person, so they can do all the cognitive skills. But
Yeah.
they're, like I was saying about building a different map in the nervous system, they're trying to do it out of a traumatized state, right? So we're just trying to, I'm very, very lazy as a therapist. If I can get maximum benefit for like low cost of living, love a deal. Like I'm gonna do that. Absolutely. And I'll disclose my bias here. I actually think that humans are made for bliss, that our nervous systems in the natural environment love to be blissful. You know, Even if you're traumatized, it might be terrifying to be blissful, but there is a capacity somewhere in there. And we're just trying to get like the tiny little titrations, a little sip of bliss. Lori, you're like gonna say something.
Yeah, no, well, you make me think of a client that doesn't have trauma.
Yeah.
I won't say doesn't have trauma, but doesn't have major, just a lousy childhood. I
Yeah.
don't know if it
Yeah.
rises to the level of
Maybe,
trauma,
maybe
but
scarcity and deprivation, huh?
yeah, yeah,
Emotionally.
yeah, very much, and does
Yeah.
no longer speaks to his mom because she's just psychological. She's emotionally abusive,
Yeah.
and he cannot he can't touch passion or bliss.
Yeah.
He can't, like, he goes on vacation and all he can see are the things that aren't. He's trying to enjoy himself. He's not like a negative Nelly, but
Right.
he's like,
Right.
oh, but there are people smoking too close to me. Or I wish those people over there, it's such a lovely pool. Why do those people have to be so loud? That kind of thing. Like there's always something that
Yeah.
breaks him.
No,
And
that's a great one. Like, what does that tell you about his window of tolerance?
does he have one? Or is it just shattered? Like, he's
I was kind of joking with one of my clients the other day. I said, you go to the gym? And he's like, yeah, I go to the gym all the time. I said, you know those guys like with the massive chest and the huge biceps, and then they have legs like toothpicks? I'm like, you're that guy. Sorry to tell you. Like, you're that guy. You're way overdeveloped in being able to orient to and respond or react to like all the negative in your life. Those muscles are huge. But in terms of like your foundational sense of safety and grounding and like the joy of life, toothpick legs. Like, we need to build this. This is going to be our work, is to have a balance system. And obviously, for whatever reason, the conditions were such that it wasn't safe to be blissful. Well, that's really
no,
interesting, you know?
really wasn't safe to, like, it's sort of the sensation I've always, or the feeling I've always gotten is like if he had dared be happy, his mom would have found a way to harsh his mellow.
Right. Yeah. So
So
there you're seeing the constriction of range in his
yeah,
nervous system.
yeah. And
I
and
need
he wants
to
it.
check out. This is amazing, and I hope that we're going to be doing a lot of this walkthrough because it's super helpful.
Yeah.
I've got a client at 2 o'clock.
Fun to
Oh,
play. Well, I don't want
good
to.
to see your face.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Have
Thank
a great long
you.
weekend, Karen.
Yeah.
Thank
Have fun in
you.
Montreal.
Thank
Yep.
you. Bye now.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
I'll take care of plants.
So you're watering her plant. You're such a good guy.
She left her 3 plants, but I was looking at them this morning. I'm going to split them into separate pots because they need different requirements, blah, blah, blah.
Honest to God, Kevin, I like all your attending to details around our world. I love that.
I
Yeah,
can't be
it's
stopped.
very thoughtful.
Yeah.
So appreciate those parts too. Well, I want to respect your guys' time. That was super fun to play with this. And that's my thought, is that we'll just keep walking through different parts and then maybe we can intersperse it as people are delivering pieces of the protocol or modify protocols or the actual protocol.
Sure.
Like I said, my intention is for it to be super flexible, but it was designed to meet this, what I perceived as a missing gap in the a gap in the system
I
for the
I
people
just
we
I
serve.
have to
Yeah.
finish the IFS training thing I'm going through now, an hour and a half a week for, well, it was 3 hours and then 5 weeks at an hour and a half. And so this
Ooh.
level one training, it's not even level one training. It's not like it's just, but it's finally getting an idea because if this is oriented in IFS, and without the IFS understanding, you're not going to get very far with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Kind of, yeah.
Well, have a wonderful weekend, guys.
Yeah.
Enjoy the long day on Monday. There's not admin coverage on Monday, so I hope
I'm
none of
I'm
you.
coming into the office on Monday, but I've
Yeah,
got
I'll
a
be
couple
there
of
too.
clients. Yeah.
Okay. I hope it's
great.
peaceful. Have a great time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take,
All right.
take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Kim.